Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is Quotes 246. Today we have a quote by George Orwell, and it's the first time we're doing a quote by him. He is a classic author, and he's one of the only authors I know that actually kind of has an adjective named after him. A lot of times somebody might say something is very Orwellian, and it's always in reference to several books that he wrote that have to do with a dystopian future. We'll get into that in a minute. For now, let's take a look at the quote first. Here's the quote. Those who control the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. Okay, let's look at the note here. George Orwell was famous for several novels. This quote is from his most famous book, 1984. Okay. George Orwell wrote this book as a warning to the American people for a futuristic dystopian world. So he was warning you to be careful about a futuristic dystopian world that he kind of saw possibly coming. All right, and also he was warning future generations worldwide, not just the American people, but anybody who could figure it out, and future generations to look at it. All right, let's continue. Some say he got his ideas for a futuristic dystopian world. Now, again, if we say dystopian, that's the opposite of utopian. Utopian is like a perfect world where everybody's happy, everything's peaceful, nobody's fighting, everybody likes each other, they get along. Dystopian is the total opposite. Dystopian is kind of like a very dark sort of a world where people have very little freedom and they're suppressed and they're held down. And it's always a futuristic world. The total opposite of a utopia is a dystopia. Let's continue. From what was recently experienced under the Nazis. Yeah, remember he wrote this book, I believe, in the late 1940s. So World War II was over not that long ago. So that's why some people might have said he got some of his ideas of, how the Nazis treated people during World War II. Also, Russia, when the socialism of the Stalin came in, they were very suppressive of people and total tyrannical kind of control over people. So some people say he got a lot of his ideas for these books from that. However, others say he was aware of a plan by rich, powerful interests, what they planned for the future. And that's what he was really warning us about. All right, so let's continue. When Orwell talks about controlling the past, he is talking about rewriting and changing history. So that's in part of his quote. In his book, 1984, the main character, Winston, has the job to revise historical records. The past became whatever the ruling elite wanted it to be. All right, so they kind of knew this sort of idea. I think the Nazis had a lot of book burning too. But still, let's take a look at the note again. So those who control the past controls the future. So if you could change the past around and people think of the past in a different way, you could start to change their opinions about the future. This is what he's saying. Who controls the present? Well, if you control the present, you could have the power and the influence to try to change the past, try to change history books, try to brainwash people with media and repeating things over and over again. So this is what he means. So controls the past. So he who controls the present controls the past. You control the past, you control the future. So basically, if you control the present, you control both the past and the future. Okay, let's continue. Revise historical records. Yeah, now I remember when I first read this book. I was in high school, and at that time I remember it was actually before 1984, and I do remember some people talking about, 1984 is coming up. Will the world really be like what George Orwell wrote about? And at that time, we really weren't that close to it yet. And I thought some of the book was even a little boring. But when you re-looked at this book in like 30 years later, in 2014, and we've been inching our way closer and closer towards, his world since that time too, since like now we're in 2019. So, yeah, he had a world where, everybody was being filmed all the time. Cameras were all over the place. 1984, the world was not like that. Today, there are a lot of cities that have cameras all over the public. So that's much, much closer. Plus, we know that it goes beyond that. We know that some of your electronic devices can actually film you and tape you. You even see somebody like Mark Zuckerberg puts tape over his computer because he knows that, you could be spied on through your computer. There was reports, of course, that Samsung TV can videotape you. If you own a Samsung, you could be videotaped through your TV. So suddenly we're getting a lot closer to this type of a world that George Orwell talked about in 1984. We also know from Snowden that, many of almost all of our conversations are actually not only being listened to, are actually being recorded and stored. Again, we're getting a lot closer to George Orwell's world. Okay. All right, let me continue with this point first before I go on. In our modern times, many have studied history books over decades and have noticed considerable changes. There is also a twist of history in a lot of movies or shows. So this is a sign of changing the past. If there's rich, powerful interest and they buy up a lot of publishing companies and they have people over time with the textbooks, maybe they make the changes small, but over time, if you revise it 3, 4, 5 editions, suddenly what history was written there has a very different feel or aspect about it. So this is a way that we've noticed changes in our history, both in textbooks in school and in movies and shows, depending upon the directors that do them, and not really quite what we thought before, or even if you go back and look at some of the historical documents, it's not exactly what they're saying. All right, so powerful interests have the power to do this if they are following an agenda. So they can also control the present. We also see fake news all the time. There's so many reports that so much of the mainstream media has been caught reporting fake stories, twisting the facts, reporting things that are sometimes even complete lies. So again, we are getting a lot closer to George Orwell's book, George Orwell's story about the future. So I don't know. You can let me know what you think. Are we almost there? Really? Let's hope not. Or let's hope that if we are there, that somehow some of these things may be reversed. Yes, we don't. Yeah, and another thing was that, you remember, the government was always Big Brother back then too. Big Brothers, and they try to convince the people that we're only doing this for your good. We're just trying to protect you. And even today, a lot of times when governments try to change a lot of laws that actually take away some of your freedoms, they're also saying they're doing it for you. They're trying to protect you. That's their goal. Their interest is only best for you. This is exactly what George Orwell was saying too. He was warning us about this. But again, let me know what you think. Let me know if we are getting close to what George Orwell was talking about. It's a very interesting book when you look at it from a modern day perspective. Anyway, I hope you got it. I hope it's clear. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.